Hello, and welcome to this presentation, International Opportunities for Chinese Repertoire. My name is Peter van Rijn, and I'm the CEO of Fuga. Fuga is a global music distribution and marketing services company, started in 2006, and we now have around 800 clients globally. They include labels, platforms, distributors, artist services companies, and they're located in more than 50 countries. So it's a true international company. We distribute on their behalf, or they distribute their content through our platform, through our company, to more than 260 DSPs. And we are a preferred platinum partner for Spotify, preferred plus partner for Apple, and have a very strong relationship with all major DSPs. We are, since 2020, part of the Downtown Group. The Downtown Group is a global music services business, providing services for creators, premium artists, and businesses across rights. Now, at Fuga, we pride ourselves on the clients that we cater for. And you can see them coming here in various shapes and sizes and forms. And they're very internationally located as well, like I mentioned earlier. And with respect to Asia, around 7 to 8% of our client base comes from Asia, and they are based in 16 countries. Now, the international and global music markets. If we look at the emerging markets compared to let's say the traditional Western markets, we can see a stronger growth. Generally, the growth in the Western and traditional markets is a one-digit percentage, and it's double-digit percentage growth annually in various Asian markets and also across Latin America. And what we see generally there is that accessible internets and low-cost technology fuels growth. That's not a surprise. And we can also see how population size instead or more than location becomes significant. Some countries who may be a little bit less evolved when it comes to specific digital uptake present a huge opportunity for international content, simply because of their potential audience. And what we can see as well is new DSP rivalries. So there's some real interesting examples of really large DSPs, and some of them are Chinese, who have a huge potential audience and are real interesting competitors to let's say the global Western players. And if we take a look the other way, in another way, to the international markets, what we can see here is that the music market becomes ever more global. There's way more opportunity now for local and in this case, Chinese content to travel than it was before. And really technology has enabled this. So we see that English-speaking music is now facing more competition from repertoire elsewhere. And specific successful regions that have launched international music is Latin America, South Korea, comes as no surprise, but also India. And they provide a blueprint for international success, whereby cooperation between labels and partners and artists is key. And superstars are emerging from new markets, often collaborating with local artists, as I mentioned just now. But because they have such a large local following, they actually are able to now, through the digital domain, to gain traction in the global community. Working with international DSPs, therefore, is crucial. And there's a few elements that you need to have in order to really launch that successful international strategy. The first one, very basic, is metadata. It is essentially the need to create UPC and RSRC codes, which can be done and can be provided by your distribution partner, for instance. But you also have to take into account that different DSPs obviously require different metadata and have different campaign schedules. And so you really have to speak to your local partner in depth about that process and learn from that. Ex-China, you're going to need both versions, so both traditional and simplified Chinese. On the promotional and marketing front, international DSPs, they expect to work with singles rather than albums. An artist can obviously launch an album, but the pitching will be done around singles. And it's very important to have, just as you're probably accustomed to, a really good story behind the drivers of the artist, of the single, to create optimal promotions. But you have to do it in time. You have to do it in advance, preferably 4 weeks in advance, when you really want to make sure that your content is successful and gets editorial placements on DSPs. And every DSP obviously has a different pitching approach, not just to the opportunities, but also how they take in pitching requests. So they can be done through email, can be done through Excel sheets, or more automated, for instance, like Spotify. And finally, rights collection. So this is not necessarily about the rights that are, or the income that is collected from the DSPs, but the income that's collected outside of the DSPs. So think about any sort of publishing or copyrights collection, neighboring rights collection that is done in, for instance, Europe and Latin America, and also the US through societies. And you can work with several partners who can help you collect on publishing, neighboring, and copyrights. Zooming in a little bit on what is happening now in the DSP landscape, social media and UGC content is really on the rise. So what is important here? First of all, you need to work with a good partner who must have knowledge of Chinese and international repertoire and how to place it. So someone with experience, in short. The partner should be based in the West with ability to capitalize on Western platforms. Secondly, you need to think about a go-to-market strategy. International streaming platforms, they need to be treated as new markets because they have such a broad audience and user base. You need to think about how you want to make that work for you and how you can leverage your artist or the campaign on the platform to the right audience. So essentially finding the audience that fits you. You do that also with the help of adding Western metadata to activate non-Chinese fans. So really try to understand the thinking of the, let's say in this case, the Western social media follower, and partner with international acts and labels, like I mentioned before. And international social media, very important to have your basics in order. Open accounts with Western social platforms. They require everyday monitoring, everyday interaction, really understanding what is happening on the platform with regards to the content that you're producing. And you need to make sure that for the content you are producing, everything is monetized, fingerprinting is in order, admin settings are okay, so that you avoid fake versions to appear, or if content is user generated, that you are the one who's monetizing on it. Opportunities for music in other media. First one, a very obvious one, sync licensing. Opportunities for existing repertoire, obviously, as tracks and music can be brought to support commercials for brands, for instance, films or TV series at social platforms or broadcasting. And it's important to always also supply and create an instrumental version of the track. Virtual events, virtual artists, something that has become more popular essentially since COVID. Virtual concert organizers and platforms have really filled the gap there, giving the artists an opportunity to find a local and global audience, very high skill performance production, essentially creating marketing audiences and very practically avoiding the need for a visa. Virtual artists, this is not pertaining necessarily to Asia, although we think there's a gap for Asian content producers there to monetize and market a new type of content in the Western world. Finally, gaming and in-gaming merchandising. This is a great opportunity for an artist to meet an audience through a game, to have music playing in an esports event, or cooperate with any type of game producer, and find an audience there that is ready-made, that's digitally savvy, and probably has an appetite for music. Obviously, a fit is very important. Not every artist fits a gaming world or fits a particular game. There's definitely some examples there where it hasn't worked so well. Future focus. So what is important? What do we think is important? First of all, the continuous rise of UGC and social platforms, in combination with the emergence of significant locational DSPs in, for instance, Asia and Latin America, is really important, and it will continue to unlock growth and value for existing and future content. The ever-growing amount of data will enable us all to have more accurate information about our current and past, and hopefully in the future, new content, and therefore making sure that becomes more successful through and is more data driven, so we can be more predictive and more prescriptive. And blockchain, the word that at some point was very popular, then became a bit of a swear word, and is now back on the table again. Blockchain, we think, will enable rights ownership, transparency, and ultimately more payment efficiency and accuracy. Artificial intelligence will enable the creation and the tagging of music in a way more effective way, and so that they can be found better for instance, sync purposes. And finally, direct-to-fan engagements, new platforms emerging whereby artists can engage directly with their fans for promotions, to do transactions, or something you see recently, really have effective merchandising campaigns, for instance, in the form of NFT drops. So in short, get a partner who understands how to work with Chinese repertoire and has close ties to key Western markets. Secondly, localize your strategy by working with artists and labels in the region and adapting your campaigns to reflect the needs of local platforms. Thirdly, use international platforms and take time to build an audience on social media and via UGC to drive traffic to the other platforms. And finally, explore new media and technology that create opportunities and take advantage of ready-made audiences. Now with that, I'd like to thank you so much for your attention, and I hope to be able to meet you in person next time I travel to China. Thank you very much.